Somewhere in Manhattan, in the summer of 1950, a young man is standing over a sink full of dishes. The steam rises around him like morning fog over a harbor. His hands are red from the hot water. The noise of the kitchen, the clinking, the shouting, the sizzle of a pan fills every corner of the room. His name is Joe Gaetjens. He is 25 years old. He is from Haiti. And in 11 days, he will do something that no American has done before or since. But tonight, he is just a dishwasher. And the world does not know his name. That same summer, on the other side of the Atlantic, a very different kind of preparation was taking place. The English Football Association packed its bags with the quiet confidence of men who had never once doubted themselves. England had invented this game. They had written the rules, built the stadiums, taught the world to play. They had looked at every other nation on this earth and said, politely but firmly, "We taught you everything you know." And they were not entirely wrong. Their squad was not a collection of players, it was a procession of certainties. Tom Finney, Stan Mortensen, Wilf Mannion, names that in England were spoken the way you speak about cathedrals, with reverence, with awe, with the assumption that they will stand forever. The British press called them the greatest team England had ever sent abroad. Las Vegas, if it had been paying attention, would have offered odds so lopsided they would have embarrassed the bookmakers. England was not going to Brazil to compete. They were going to confirm. They were a polished empire in white shirts. Now let me tell you about the other team. The United States of America sent 21 men to Brazil in 1950, and I want you to close your eyes for a moment and imagine who these men were. Not superstars, not professionals, not men with agents or endorsement deals or marble statues in their hometowns. There was a school teacher, there were 2 postmen, there was a factory worker from Pennsylvania, there was a carpenter, there was Frank Borghi, the goalkeeper from St. Louis, who on most days drove a hearse for a funeral home and played semi-professional baseball on weekends. And then there was Joe Gaetjens. The dishwasher from Manhattan, he was studying accounting at Columbia University on a student visa. He was not even an American citizen. He played for a small club in New York. He was selected because someone somewhere saw something in him, a quality that is very hard to name and very easy to miss. A certain lightness, a certain grace under ordinary conditions. These men did not fly to Brazil on a gleaming aircraft. They traveled in stages on a prop plane that made stops in Trinidad and Cuba. Several of them had never been outside the United States. Some of them had never seen the ocean until they crossed it. And the American press, they were not there. Almost no American journalists made the journey. Back home, nobody expected a story worth telling. Belo Horizonte, Brazil, the 29th of June, 1950. So, the Estadio Independencia held 30,000 people, and on that afternoon, most of them were Brazilian, not English, not American, simply curious spectators who had come to watch the inevitable. The English team walked onto that field the way powerful men always enter a room, with the particular ease of those who have never been told no. The American team walked onto the same field with something harder to define. Not confidence exactly, more like the particular calm of men who have nothing to lose because nobody expects anything of them at all. There is a strange freedom in invisibility. Sometimes the most dangerous man in the room is the one nobody is watching. The first half was not a battle of tactics, it was a battle of belief. England pressed. England dominated. The ball lived in the American half of the field like a guest who had overstayed his welcome. Frank Borghi, the man who drove hearses for a living, made save after save after save. He moved through the goal with the quiet efficiency of a man used to handling things that are precious and fragile and irreplaceable. So, then, in the 37th minute, time did something strange. It slowed down. Walter Barr, a schoolteacher from Philadelphia, drove a long, speculative ball toward the English penalty area. It was not a perfect pass, it was not a calculated genius move. It was the kind of ball you hit when you are running out of ideas and you trust that something somewhere might intervene on your behalf. Joe Gaetjens arrived at that ball like a man who had been waiting for it his entire life without knowing it. His body dipped, his head made the faintest contact. The ball changed direction quietly, almost apologetically, and crossed the line before the English goalkeeper could understand what was happening. The stadium erupted, not for America, not for England, but for the sheer, impossible, beautiful absurdity of the moment. Joe Gaetjens was lifted onto the shoulders of his teammates. He laughed. He looked up at the sky. He was For one small and infinite moment, the most important man on earth. And then the second half began. England pushed for the rest of the match with the desperation of men who cannot accept what their own eyes are telling them. They hit the post, they hit the crossbar, they hit everything except the back of the net. And when the final whistle blew, the silence from the English camp was the loudest thing in Brazil. The English players stood on the field like men who had just been told that the map they had been using their whole lives was wrong. Back in England, when the result was telegraphed home, newspaper editors refused to print it. Some believed it was a transmission error, that the score of 1-0 must have been meant to read 10-1. So it seemed more logical that England had won by 10 goals than lost by 1. And in America, almost nothing. The players flew home. Frank Borghi went back to driving his hearse. The school teacher went back to his classroom. The postmen returned to their roots. No ticker tape parade, no front pages, no phone calls from the White House. The country they had represented had been too distracted by the news from Korea, too indifferent to a sport it did not yet understand, to notice what had happened in a small stadium in Brazil on a Thursday afternoon in June. They had performed a miracle. They came home to an empty room. Of all the men on that field, none carried a heavier future than Joe Gaetjens. So he went back to Haiti in the mid-1950s. He had a family there. He had a life. He had a name that people in certain rooms recognized with a warm and startled smile. You're the one who scored. But Haiti in the 1960s was not a place that rewarded men who had been noticed by the world. Francois Duvalier, Papa Doc, ran the country with the particular cruelty of a man who feared everything he could not control. Joe Gaetjens had brothers who were involved in politics. In 1964, he was taken away, not arrested, not charged, not tried, simply taken by the Tanta Macouts, Duvalier's secret police. He was never seen again. No one knows exactly what happened to him. No body was ever found. No grave was ever marked. The man who had been carried on shoulders in front of 30,000 people simply ceased to exist, quietly, without ceremony, without a final chapter. Some miracles, it seems, are not rewarded. Some miracles are simply borrowed, brief, bright flames that burn intensely and then return to the dark. I have been thinking about why this story matters, not as a sports result, not as a footnote in a record book, but as a human document. Because what happened on the 29th of June, 1950, was not really about football. It was about the invisible people, the ones who wash the dishes in the back of the restaurant while other people eat the meal, the ones who drive the hearse while other people attend the funeral, the ones who cross oceans, not on ships of conquest, but on student visas, with accounting textbooks under their arms and a pair of old boots in a bag. Joe Gaetjens never got a stadium named after him. He never got the retrospective celebration, the documentary deal, the framed photograph on the wall of a bar. He got one afternoon, one perfect, improbable, unrepeatable afternoon in Belo Horizonte when fate leaned down and whispered something only he could hear. And he answered. Maybe that is enough. Maybe that is more than enough. Because somewhere in Manhattan right now, there is someone standing over a sink full of dishes. The steam is rising, the kitchen is loud, and they do not yet know what they are capable of. And they never do. Not until the moment arrives, and they answer.